Your Magnificence, Excellencies, Spectabiles, Honorabiles, Professores, Doctores, cives academici, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I hereby open the lecture on the theme Next Step for European Integration by the Federal Minister of Finance of the Federal Republic of Germany, Dr. Wolfgang Schäuble, whom I cordially welcome among us. Please allow me to welcome on behalf of Charles University to our dear and distinguished guests who are attending this lecture as well. They are His Excellency Arndt Freiherr Freitag for Rollinghausen, Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany in the Czech Republic, and the delegates of the embassies of France and Poland. Permit me also to express our pleasure at the presence of the Minister of Finance of the Czech Republic, Mr. Andrej Babiš, and the Vice President of the Chamber of Deputies of the Parliament of the Czech Republic, Mr. Jan Bartošek, and all our dear guests today. And now I shall ask Professor Tomáš Zima, Rector of Charles University, to deliver his speech.
Your Magnificence, Excellencies, Spectabiles, Honorabiles, Professores et Doctores, cives academici, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests. It's a great honor for me to welcome in the ancient Carolinum a most distinguished guest, Mr. Wolfgang Schäuble, the German Federal Minister of Finance, on the occasion of his official visit in the Czech Republic. Wolfgang Schäuble was born in the South German city of Freiburg in Breisgau, and he is the longest-serving member of the Bundestag and one of the leading German and European politicians at our time. His political career has been successful from the very start. As a member of CDU, he won his first seat in the Bundestag in 1972, and since the 80s, he held various ministerial offices in the governments of the Federal Republic. He has contributed a great deal to the German reunification in the late 80s and early 90s, and has remained active in a political scene ever after assignment which has left him paralyzed for the rest of his life. In spite of that, Schäuble has never renounced his place in high politics. In 1991, he replaced Helmut Kohl as chairman of CDU, and for 10 years he shaped the fate of this key German political party. In 2005, during the time of the Grand Coalition of the Christian and Social Democrats, led by Angela Merkel, Schäuble assumed the post of the Federal Minister of the Interior. His success in this demanding office during these difficult times brought him the appointment as a key member of Angela Merkel's second government as the Federal Minister of Finance. That appointment, surprising at the first glance, was logical. Wolfgang Schäuble had successfully completed his education with PhD degree on thesis of financial law. The appointment of Schäuble proved one of the most crucial steps Chancellor Merkel had taken. It was very important for Europe, shaken by deep financial crisis and seeking help and guidance from the economically, social, and politically stable Germany, that Germany's financial matters are managed by such an experienced and rational politician as Wolfgang Schäuble. Due to the importance of the Federal Republic in the European Union, his role has surpassed the usual duties of the ministerial post, which is primarily concerned with the inner matters of the state. Frankly, it was aimed at the European financial diplomacy. This fact, however, did not cause Minister Schäuble to lose sight of his financial politics at home, consequently disciplined since the summer 2009 by the so-called debt break. On the contrary, Schäuble has used as a well-functioning German economy with its high tax income and exceptionally low unemployment. At his firmly consolidated state finances, it is especially his merit that the Federal Republic will enter the year 2015 with a balanced, perhaps even slightly surplus budget. Schäuble has said many times that he do not consider this an end itself. According to his own words, he does not want to pass the burden of debt that the current society and political representations had to bear on future generations. He also urged that the less a state has to borrow for repaying its debt, the more money it has left investments and departments that ensure its future prosperity. It is these same ideas that European Schäuble is trying to promote in the European Union. His chief aim is to strengthen the coordination of fiscal policies in the individual European states and a continuing purposeful deepening of European integration. Even so, Schäuble's endeavors are, even in his native Germany, from time to time met with a fair-seas and usually in populistic way incompetent criticism. Expert analysis show something different. Just like Chancellor Merkel, Schäuble wants to achieve that every European state that truly strives for stabilization, disciplining and structural modernization of its economy remains as an integral part of the Union. It is this aspect that the Federal Minister of Finances considered crucial to his role and to the meaning of the European integration process that has begun almost 70 years ago. For the stronger to help the weaker and to show solidarity to those who need it. That is why Schäuble is right considered not just a German, but ever-increasing so significant European statesman. It follows from my previous words that Schäuble's motivation is not driven just by the German economic interest. Wolfgang Schäuble is an European at heart, a European that is well aware of the role his country played in the previous century, as he after all stated for the Czech press earlier this week. These attributes, as well as his exceptional technical and language skills, together with his uncompromising attitude, which is the struggles to achieve goals he considered worth fighting, that all helps him in carrying out his difficult and exceedingly responsible role. Charles University, one of the oldest universities in Europe, true to its historical tradition, expresses its recognition and honor for those who have made exceptional contribution to education and common good. The Charles University Commemorative Medal, which bears the stamp of the original historical seal of the university, is awarded as an expression of our recognition and honor. Charles University considers it an honor to welcome Wolfgang Schäuble, award him a gold commemorative medal of Charles University in Prague. It is not only due to his contribution to coordinating rule-based fiscal policy in Europe-wide content, but also because his priorities include the promotion of the development and productive cooperation, supranational and supraconfessional, understanding among the people of the safe, wealthy and self-confident Europe that we are part of. Allow me, Mr. Wolfgang Schäuble, to receive the commemorative medal on this place, and thank you very much.
And now I would like to ask the Minister of Finance of the Czech Republic, Mr. Andrej Babiš, for a few words.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to organize the visit of Mr. Wolfgang Schäuble in Prague after when I visited him in Berlin. It's a really big honor, and at the same time, after a long time, Czech Republic took initiative and is proposing very concrete steps, mainly in fight against tax fraud. So that's why, after acceptance of Wolfgang Schäuble, I could receive today all finance ministers from neighboring countries. So we had a lunch Wolfgang Schäuble, the Minister of Finance from Austria, Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia. Unfortunately, the Croatian minister couldn't come. So, and we have discussed a very concrete step to fight against the tax fraud. And this initiative is very important for our budget, and I am very pleased that Wolfgang helped me, and also we have exchanged a concrete visit of our customs and tax administration, and we will continue to be very active in Europe, and we have also to learn a lot of things. Germany was always our strategic partner for business and investments, and it's a really big pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now I would like to ask the Minister of Finance of the Federal Republic of Germany, Dr. Wolfgang Schäuble, for his lecture.
Thank you very much, magnificent dear colleague, Mr. Babis. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me, and I want really to thank you for this great honor to be honored by this very famous European university, and for your friendly words, and for this welcome, and for this wonderful meeting we had, and for the honor to listen to me. And so I will say a few words to next steps in European integration. We have experienced a profound transformation in Europe over the past quarter of a century. As one of the most wonderful and moving signs of this transformation is the fact that today, where I am here in the Czech Republic, I am no longer standing in a part of Europe under Soviet dictatorship. Now here in Prague, I am now standing in a Central Europe that is free, in the heart of the European Union. And in this week, we all in Germany remembered what happened 25 years ago in Prague, and we will never forget. And that's how it was for centuries, and that's how it is again today. And the Charles University, one of Europe's oldest universities, was always a major center on its own accord here in the heart of Europe. In just a few weeks, on the 9th of November, we in Germany will be celebrating the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. And we Germans know, and we will never forget, that German reunification was achieved because the people of Europe wanted to overcome the division of our continent, or to be a little bit more outspoken. We know very well that our good friends in Western Europe were a little bit skeptical when the Berlin Wall came down. But our partners in the eastern part of Europe were very much in favor of German reunification, and we have never forgotten. And it was because of courageous people in Hungary, in Czechoslovakia, and in Poland, in the years and decades before 1989, paved the way forward by standing up and demanding freedom and civil rights. And all of you, the younger generation of today, can be very proud of what these popular movements accomplished. And on behalf of my own country, I would like to say thank you. Back then, we were convinced that the reunification of Germany would be followed by the reunification of Europe. We knew that this was essential. And the fact that all of us succeeded in achieving this goal, the fact that German unity went hand in hand with a wider and deeper European unity, is the most fortunate development in recent European history. We experience this development as another chapter in the expansion of peace that European integration has achieved since the end of the Second War. And it's true that in recent years we may have started to lose our appreciation of the peace that took so much work to build in Europe. But now, as we face the crisis in Ukraine, we are seeing that Europe is regaining its relevance and its persuasive power as a model for building and enduring peace. At the start of 2014, our thoughts were focused on the year 1914 as a reminder of Europe's violent past and the peace that we have built. But that all changed on the 20th of February this year, when about 80 protesters were killed in Kiev. Since then, it's not only the past, but also current developments that are showing us once again how precious our peace in Europe is and how urgent it is for the project of European integration to keep pressing forward, so that Europe can speak with one voice and successfully defend its values, not only during the current crisis, but also in the future. That is a powerful justification for European integration, but it's certainly not the only one. It has become commonplace to say that today's world is changing rapidly and dramatically due to globalization. But the thing that we call globalization had a direct impact on every single one of us. This accelerating process of linkages between economic, political and cultural systems is changing today's states and societies faster and more fundamentally than anything we have seen for over a century, since the peak of the Industrial Revolution. Globalization is bringing growing prosperity to many people in Asia, South America and Africa too. In contrast, a lot of people in Western industrialized countries are afraid that their prosperity is in decline. But this fear is unfounded. Economic competition is not a zero-sum game. One person's gain is not the other person's loss. At least it doesn't have to be the case. Rather, we can all benefit from global competition, as long as we make sure that the rules are fair and apply to all. And precisely this, the need for fair and equal rules, is one of the most important reasons why we Europeans need a strong European Union. Europe is in our own self-interest. It's no accident that so many flock to Europe. It's because Europe offers a combination of freedom and social justice, of democratic participation and the rule of law, and that is unique in the world. Europe by far has the highest, the most soft power of all continents all over the world. We need a strong Europe to ensure that our values and rules are respected and observed in the 21st century. We need it to maintain security and economic well-being for Europe's citizens. But we also need Europe because of its unique contribution to global prosperity, because Europe places a priority on long-term, stable and sustainable growth. Furthermore, we need Europe to ensure the provision of global public goods, that is, public goods which cannot be provided by individual states. Whether we are talking about the challenges of climate change, terrorism, the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, hunger and disease, migration, or financial and economic crises, all of these challenges demand global solutions. States, even empires that are able to run their affairs within their own borders, are increasingly incapable of dealing effectively with global problems alone. Europe has correctly given up on the illusion that it can dominate the globe. But Europe can still make an important contribution to solving global problems. To do this, we in Europe need strong institutions and, of course, a strong economy. During the last century, we Europeans succeeded in replacing the failed system of rival European nation-states with a supranasal system, the European Union, with European executive and legislative bodies. Even if these European bodies are still incomplete, step by step we are improving and expanding the EU's institutional framework. For example, it's a major step forward that the new European Commission President was one of the lead candidates of the European Parliament's two largest political groups. This will boost the democratic legitimacy of European decisions. In addition, the European Commission's powers of economic governance have been enhanced in recent years through the steps to reinforce the Stability and Growth Pact. And with the fiscal compacts, we have set binding rules on debt limits that apply to all the signatory countries. We also created the European Financial Stability Facility and then the European Stability Mechanism, which institutionalized a crisis resolution mechanism that we previously didn't have. Now we face the situation that the Lisbon Treaty reflects the European reality of the 2014 only to a limited extent. We have significantly deepened European integration, but not always using the community method. That is the European decision-making process based on the European institutions and treaties, which is the approach that I would always prefer in principle. But when we are unable to solve urgent problems with the European treaties in their current form, we often had to fall back on the intergovernmental approach in order to reach a swift solution. For example, we had to adopt the fiscal compact with its obligation to introduce national debt breaks in the form of an international treaty. This intergovernmental approach, in my view, is only second best, but it's better than nothing. But in the long term, second best is not good enough for Europe. We will gradually have to replace or supplement these second best solutions with limited changes to the treaties. The new European Commission should develop proposals to this end in a way that will enable necessary steps towards further integration. It's, however, rather unlikely that we will succeed in taking major steps towards deeper integration on the level of all 28 EU members in the near future. Rather, it's, in my view, precisely the Eurozone that can serve as a driving force for deeper integration using the community method. This is one of the reasons why I would be delighted if the Czech Republic decided to join the Eurozone in the near future. Some of the treaty changes will reflect the new reality of the Eurozone. But we need to be very careful to leave the door wide open for member states which have not yet introduced the euro, especially for those close partners as the Czech Republic. There are some things that we can do directly. I can imagine there being a Eurozone parliament comprising the members of parliaments of Eurozone countries to strengthen the democratic legitimacy of decisions affecting the single currency bloc. And why not have a European budget commissioner with powers to reject national budgets if they don't correspond to the rules we jointly agreed? We have similar arrangement to make sure that countries stick to the rules in the form of the competition commissioner, and it has been very successful. This new proposal would not violate budgetary law, because the question of how the rules are complied with, whether by means of lower spending or higher taxes, remains the responsibility of the member states. Insisting that countries comply with the rules that we have agreed in Europe does not violate national sovereignty. Otherwise, we shouldn't agree on any rules in Europe at all. The question, do we want more or less Europe, is misleading if it puts in this form as an alternative. On the one hand, we need a stronger Europe, particularly when it comes to major questions and cross-border issues that countries cannot deal with on their own. On the other hand, we need a greater willingness to apply the subsidiarity principle consistently. Unfortunately, people often pay lip service to this principle without really taking it to heart. Responsibilities need to be more clearly attributed to the appropriate level. As many competences as possible need to remain decentralized and in the hands of local authorities, regions, and member states. But those things that can only be decided on the European level need to be decided by European institutions. In my view, the EU could mainly focus on ensuring a fair and open internal market and concentrate its policy action on trade, financial markets, currency issues, climate, environment, and energy, as well, of course, as foreign policy and security policy. In other words, on those areas where only the European level can successfully take long-term action. This way we could achieve real added value for the European project. And if we limit our work on the European level to these major higher level tasks, it would create additional legitimacy. I don't believe that anyone in Europe wants a centralized superstate. And I also don't believe that the majority of people are willing to give up their nations. In any case, that is not necessary. The issue is much more about having a system of competences that is suitable for tackling global problems. Once we have clearly divided up the responsibility, then each level should have proper democratic legitimation for its tasks. Then each level would take care of those things that can best be tackled on that level. What would we call this kind of future European system? If you wanted to describe in a more technical way, we would then be a multi-level democracy, not a federal state whose center of gravity would lie in the middle of a political structure that is almost like a nation state. But at the same time, it should be much more than a confederation of states whose connections remain weak and lacking in legitimization. Instead, it should be a complementary and interconnected system of democracies with different scopes and competences, a system of double democracy that's both national and European. And this type of system can only be built step by step, pragmatically, and sometimes following the principle of trial and error. Until then, we have to keep working with the imperfect institutions that we have. That makes it even more important to focus on the tasks that are our immediate priorities. This is, first of all, the European Banking Union, which we are establishing this year with a single supervisory mechanism, SSM, and a single resolution mechanism, SRM, for the euro area and any other EU member states that wish to join. The single supervisor, located at the European Central Bank, which will supervise all financial institutions which are of systemic importance for Europe's financial system. The European Supervisory Authority will ensure that banks no longer take on risks that could threaten the entire system. The Banking Union is the biggest European integration project since the introduction of the euro. To make sure that the Banking Union starts out this autumn with healthier banks, the ECB is currently examining the balance sheets of the most important European banks it will be supervising in the future. In anticipation of the new rules, banks have already made progress in raising their capital levels and boosting their own resilience. This will improve their ability to perform their true task, which is to provide financing for the real economy. The credibility of supervisory authorities will be ensured through the creation of the single resolution mechanisms in the future. Troubled banks can be wound up on the basis of clear rules. Liability will be borne first by a bank's shareholders and creditors, and then by the banking sector as a whole. It's essential for Europe to put itself in a better economic position, and quickly. The Ukraine crisis once again underlines the importance of economic factors. If we want to continue to rely on the tools that we believe will be successful in the long term, by which I mean diplomatic and economic instruments, then it's also more important for us to be strong. The start of the new legislative term for the European Parliament and the new European Commission with its new structure, especially with its new vice presidents, who now hold broader responsibility for high priority cross-departmental projects, open up the opportunity to focus now on what really matters. Our efforts in the coming years must focus on policy areas that are decisive for boosting growth and employment. This means ensuring sound public finances, continuing to regulate financial markets, improving business financing and the conditions for private investment, reforming labor markets, making public administrations more efficient and effective, deepening the internal market, concluding a transatlantic free trade agreement, and curbing harmful tax competition. And it means building an energy union and a digital union in Europe. We have to start tackling all of these tasks in Europe. And at the same time, we have to stop distracting ourselves with unproductive discussions about weakening fiscal rules and new government spending programs. None of these discussions are going to bring us up one step closer to sustainable growth. But sustainable growth is what we need if we want to remain economically competitive in this world of accelerating globalization and digitalization. Our goal in Europe must be to secure the strength and viability of the Western world. It's essential for us to have the ability to respond effectively to economic and political crises which can and will confront us in the future. But we can achieve this ability only if Europe becomes even more united. The Europe that we have today, the Europe that we have built together thanks to the positive and fortunate developments of the past 25 years of our shared history with the Czech Republic at its center, this Europe can only be an intermediate step. We must keep pressing forward together. If we do, we can give Europe the strength it needs to meet the challenges of the 21st century, which are making themselves felt every day in the Czech Republic, in Germany, and in Europe. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank the Federal Minister of Finance, Dr. Wolfganga Schäubleho, for his lecture. And now, if you have any question, we've got approximately 10-12 minutes for them. So, your questions, please.
Hello, my name is Michael Majstik. I'm a professor of Charles University and of our actually economics department here. I was always very much supportive to your implementation. Well, if you look into Europe, I am now, after Mr. Telička, member of so-called Stoiber committee, which looks to implement what is necessary, but to minimize unnecessary bureaucratic costs. And if you look into Europe, red tape is still a huge problem, but implementation is still missing. So we have delivered some kind of report to the new chairman and to the new president. So do you see the chance that the implementation will be stronger? Because if you look, the indebtedness of Eurozone countries is much higher than, for example, the Czech Republic in current days. And we are not the Eurozone member.
If I got it right, first of all, I would make the remark, fighting bureaucracy is a never-ending necessity. But it is like in the old history, I just had a meeting with Edmund Stoiber, who chaired this task force for making proposals for fighting bureaucracy in Europe, and he will deliver his report, I think, in some days to Commissioner Barroso. And he told me there are a lot of proposals you can seriously reduce the costs of bureaucracy and so on, but I said there will remain enough bureaucracy and we will create new bureaucracy. Because if you look, when we discuss taxation, as finance ministers, when we discuss financial market regulation, drawing lessons from what we learned from Lehman Brothers crisis and so on, and when we try to make legislation or regulations for 28 European member states with very different national traditions and cultures in implementing laws, and blah, 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 all this on. At the end, it will always become more complicated. That is one of, I think it's, I don't know I don't really have an alternative, but nevertheless, we have to continue to fight bureaucracy. It's a never-ending necessity. But the other part of your remark is, the second point is indebtedness. You know, at least any democratic governance, I think any governance, tends to spend more money than it earns. That is, I think it's really a basic law of human being. We want to spend more than we earn. In former centuries, what did the sovereigns do? They printed money, quite easy, and again and again. Therefore, we decided to make central bank the authority which is responsible for the ability of money to make independent and not to be available for governance or parliaments, for democratic legitimized majorities. Because if you trust this to democratic legitimized majorities, it's always the same. If I look in Germany, in Czech Republic you are much better than we in Germany, but therefore you have lower debt, it's quite clear. But if I look in Germany at polls, if you ask, are you in favor of cutting taxes? 80% majority. If you ask, are you in favor of spending more money for education, research, universities, schools, pensions, families? 80% in favor. If you ask, are you against the deficit? 80% in favor. It's only a matter of mathematics how to combine these positions. Very difficult for finance ministers. It's our job. So, what is the reason why we have higher indebtedness in the Eurozone member states than in not Eurozone member states? Of course, there are two reasons. You started later in increasing deficit to overall debt. You can even see in Germany, the so-called new Bundesländer, which used to be the former German Democratic Republic, the overall indebtedness is lower than the average in Western Germany. But you have to compare the actual deficit in the given thing. But the second reason, and that is more important, and that is one of the key of our problems in Europe, is what the economists call the moral hazard problem. As long as you can spend money or you can loan money on the risk of others. What is the given situation in the Eurozone? What is the reason why German finance ministers have to be a little bit sometimes boring and stupid? Is as long as you have a chance to spend other people's money, you will do it. Therefore, we need common liability. Or we hit even in any federal system. We have the same problem in Germany, or similar problem in Germany. If I will give a very concrete example. If you make legislation on the federal level, and the law has to be implemented on the local level in giving social support for people. And then the question is, who takes the bill? If the level which has to decide is not the same level which has the risk to finance, it will become very expensive. Therefore, you have to avoid the moral hazard problematic. And the reason why we have higher indebtedness in the Eurozone is partly on behalf of the moral hazard institution. By the way, I have to be very careful. We have some discussion on the limits of monetary policy in the Eurozone, of course. The problem for the European Central Bank, which, by the way, delivers a very good job, and price stability is granted by the European Central Bank, and very impressive. Better than it used to be in times of the Deutsche Mark under the Deutsche Bundesbank. But the problem for the European Central Bank is the mandate of the European Central Bank is price stability. Having in mind that actually we have a very low inflation rate. with the diversity of the, it's not easy. But the other problem is if the monetary policy is too much accommodating the pressure of some member states to implement what they have to do could be weakened. That is the problem. Therefore, don't want to become president of European Central Bank. It's a difficult job.
Thank you. Another question? We've got maybe 5-6 minutes. Okay.
A long answer is always something like deterrence.
Hello, my name is Hugo Ben Simon. I'm working in the French embassy. I had a personal question about the fiscal union. You a little bit mentioned this fact, and could you be more precise about the needing or not to go through fiscal union as well as bank union and energy union? And that's all.
I think that now we have a German-French discussion. And that's Europe. I'm totally convinced we urgently need, at least for the Eurozone, a fiscal union. Because to avoid the moral hazard problem I just mentioned, at the end you need, with a common currency, you need a fiscal union. But the problem is to get a fiscal union, to have to transfer some parts of national sovereignty from the level of the member state to the European level. You should discuss it in Paris, whether you are ready.
Thank you. And of course, time passes so quickly. The last question for, okay.
Hello, Schäuble. My name is Satinder Singh. I'm an economics student in Mannheim. I'm doing my exchange here at Charles University. And you already mentioned that it's quite difficult to implement laws at the European level. And you also said that that you want to regulate banks. Banks are very quick and very fast. Is it even possible to regulate banks quite efficiently, that they do their job that they're supposed to do?
First of all, I want to congratulate you. Being a student in Mannheim and having the chance to spend some time at this wonderful Charles University and in this wonderful city, you are very happy. You must be very happy. By the way, my youngest daughter spent some time in their time of being educated in Prague, and she told me it was the best time in all the time of her study. So, having said this, banking regulation, could we do it faster and to force banks to stick to their real task? That's your question. Difficult question, because you know, I will give you the arguments why it is difficult to get it. In this globalized world, you need all companies which are engaged all over the world in all markets, like some German companies, some Czech companies as well. They need global players as banks, as partners, as financial institutions. Therefore, you need global players. We have globalized financial markets. You can lose your money or win money, or earn money, that's your risk, in buying shares and bonds in Prague. You can buy it in Frankfurt, but you can ask your bank to buy it in Singapore, and you can do it in Buenos Aires or Hong Kong, wherever you want. Therefore, the competition of bank places, financial places, is very strong. Therefore, any global player is looking for the best place to be competitive and to make the best profit. It's the same in taxation. That is our major challenge for us finance ministers in taxation. It's not only the tax fraud by criminal organization. That's also a huge problem. But it's also the possibility, the chances for international companies, not only the so-called internet companies, to avoid taxation or to limit taxation very soon. And the problem is that no one is paying money for the infrastructure in the states where the companies act, and that is not fair. Banking regulation must not kill the capacity of banks to deliver what they have to do. On the other hand, you are right, and we have seen it in times of the banking crisis, so-called Lehman Brothers. Especially some parts of investment banking, they get options for short-term profits, which were so much higher than any sustainable long-term business. That said, if you look what happens in markets with all these very innovative products, and at the end, I think about 95% of business of banks was interbanking business, and not in relation to real economy. Therefore, we try to tell them, oh, your banks, our task is to finance the real economy, but that is more difficult to implement than in principle. Having said this, we have made a lot of progress since 2009. The G20 procedure, starting in Washington, if I'm right, in 2009 or 2008. And then what we have in the FSB, we have made a lot of global rules on making banks more resilient, to ask for more capital, and I will not explain all this details of Basel II, Basel III, and leverage ratio, and blah, 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 blah. But a lot of progress. Banks are much more resilient than they used to be. We have made a lot of more transparency for the interbanking, over-the-counter business near clearing has to be delivered by clearing to get transparency, to be regulated, to be supervised. We have strengthened supervision not only in Europe. In Europe, we are doing it with the banking union. We have made rules on limitation, short-term benefits for bankers and for investment bankers, to limit even the wrong incentives, short-term maximizing profits and leaving the long-term risk to anyone else, at least the taxpayers, the community of taxpayers as lender of last resort, to avoid that the fiscal system is collapsing. So we have made a lot of progress, but it's not easy to implement it in reality, and therefore it seems to move not as fast. But if you listen to what bankers are saying, when they have meetings of banker associations, they're always complaining, oh, the politics governments are killing all banks by over-regulating. It's not true. Don't believe what lobbyists are telling you. It's never the truth. But you can see they feel the pressure, and the room has been limited. The room of making mistakes has been limited. But they will be innovative, and I bet they will find new instruments to make new mistakes. Therefore, even like fighting bureaucracy, it's a never-ending challenge. But open societies can always work in the principle, along the principles of Karl Popper, trial and error. We can learn from errors. That is exactly the difference to totalitarian systems. Totalitarian systems we make all errors, but only free societies can draw lessons from errors. Dictatorships not, and that makes the difference. Therefore, we are in a better situation. Remain optimistic. I am totally optimistic.
Dear Mr. Schäuble, dear friends, let me thank you for your questions and answers, and namely for coming to the lecture Next Steps for European Integration. At this time, today's official program is completed. Dear Mr. Schäuble, now I would like to invite you to the foyer of the Patriotic Hall for a small ceremonial hospitality. Thank you. Have a nice day.